I was gonna say, though, if you're a heliocentrist, right, and you believe Earth is rotating or orbiting the sun, those are very specific movement claims that the heliocentric model makes. Um, but you also believe in the highest level of PhD physics, where you say you can never know what's actually moving in reality. I feel like there's a contradiction going on there between those two ideas. I'm pretty certain there is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I gotta get out for a bit. I'll talk to you after you. Is rotation its own inertial frame?
Did you say is rotation an inertial frame?
Yeah, that was a question.
No, it's a non-inertial frame. According to everyone, I don't understand reference frames though, so you may want to check with the Globers on that one.
Fair enough.
But I do know what I'm talking about, and if it's rotating, it's not inertial. That's how Coriolis works, anyways. And they make a lot of movement claims for claiming, they never know what's moving. They also teach you what's moving when you're in school. And then later on, they tell you, oh, we don't actually know what's moving. Because all through school, they'll teach you when you drop something, it moves down at a specific rate, even. But then
Yeah,
when you
that's
get to
because like
PhD,
that's like 90% of the stuff we do is like reference to the surface of Earth usually.
yeah, but to not know that the ground's not moving up when you live on a globe in a heliocentric model is impossible. So it doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, it makes sense for the use case, right?
No, it
You
makes
don't know
sense
how
because
fast the car is
it makes
going. It
sense
makes
because
sense.
that would be reality. If you were to drop something in the heliocentric model, it makes sense to say the apple moved down towards the ground. What you can't say is the ground moved up towards the apple, because that would throw all kinds of heliocentric motions off. You have a fixed radius. You couldn't have a fixed radius
Yeah,
if you
I mean that
started
would be a
dropping
weird
things
way to phrase it,
antipodal.
but as far as like that, looking at that one thing, that interaction, I don't think that changes anything, right? You're just looking at the ball in isolation.
Yeah, I missed what you said. I went out to my pool, but if one belief is you can never know what's actually moving in physical reality, and another belief is we actually know what's moving in physical reality, those seem contradictory to me. I don't know. It sounded like you were disagreeing with me there. I don't know. Like if you're a heliocentrist, you believe Earth is rotating. You also believe Earth is going around the sun. If you're one of these PhD level physics guys, you don't never know what's actually moving. So those are definitely contradictory. 100%. Now, if you're telling me I'm wrong and they do know what's moving, that's fine. You can have it out with those guys. You're debating against the wrong guy. You need to go debate the PhD level physicist guy who doesn't ever know what's moving in physical reality. Or you could just say it's an illusion and things aren't even really going down. Right? Wasn't that your whole shtick, Andy, with the upward moving Earth? Like I heard you calling people out like they were disingenuous and shit. And dude, that was the most disingenuous shit when you used to argue upward moving Earth I ever saw.
I've got you turned down to like 30 or 40 or something. I can't really tell what you're saying.
All right, that's fine.
I do that with people.
Yeah, I didn't hear
just
that. I didn't hear that
constantly
awesome
bunch of
argument.
bollocks. I would take you up, Dad, actually, now I think about it.
Yeah, I didn't hear that awesome argument you just made. Yeah, but I'm gonna respond right after you're done. See, pure rigor. The thing with Rusted is I continually tell her, explain things to her, and then she acts. She has like
She's
amnesia.
living in your
maybe.
head rent free. She lives in your head rent free.
Um, no, I'm back in here, and pure rigor brings it up a lot. You think when I go do other stuff, I'm thinking about Rusted?
Yeah, she's on your mind.
So she keeps saying, "Fuck you."
What she keeps saying. I guarantee it's a straw man, but go ahead.
But it's mainly like I like addressing the conversations I have with her because like after when she's not here, because when she's here, it's impossible to like she won't like shut up, so can't get anything in.
You guys were kicking it one day. You guys were like homies.
I wouldn't say homies. We were just working together on exposing TFE.
No, like last week. It was like last week. You and maybe 2 weeks ago, you and Rusted were in here kicking it.
I can be chill with people I don't like.
I was more than chill. It was like you guys were tight. That's your girl.
It's barely a girl.
What you mean barely? What? I don't think it works like that.
Like an old lady, bro.
I don't know. How old is she? She sounds like mid
She turned on
30s,
her.
maybe.
Shoot.
Oh no, I saw her. She
Yeah, she's like
she didn't seem that old.
old for me, maybe not for you.
Nah, you would have tried to make out with her probably.
Make out.
Yeah, at least second base.
I mean, I'll fuck pretty much anything, but I'm not gonna make out a girl that's not cute.
Rusted was cute.
This is getting sickening.
You don't think she was cute?
No, that's what I'm. What?
I don't know. You're probably like a 5 or something. So I don't know like what you think you're doing out here, but yeah, that shit was hilarious. I said, "What are you painting?" She's quick. Like I said, when I asked what were you painting the other day, she said immediately, no hesitation. She said probably his nails. Ah, it's fucking great. You remember that part? That was my favorite part.
This is why I want to spread disinfo and get paid to do it because like no matter what I say, people think like if people think like Rusted is like making arguments or like debating me, it's honestly like you're all cooked, bro.
Jeremy, you believe in absolute motion?
I believe that you can tell if one thing is definitely moving relative to another thing, like a tree in a car. or if I thought Earth was a globe, I would know that I would believe absolutely that it's not the ground moving up to meet the apple, that it's the apple moving down to meet the ground. Like there are situations in which you can tell if something's absolutely happening or not, depending on what your other beliefs are. Like if you're a heliocentrist, you believe in absolutely the Earth is rotating, right? And Earth is absolutely orbiting the sun.
Well, you can't. Um, okay, we agree. The way we talk about motion is motion always relative to something. If you believe that, you can't also hold that you know. I mean, basically, what you're doing is choosing a preferred reference frame, which can't exist.
No,
We know that.
anchovy. I'm telling you, you have these two beliefs. My wife said, "What kind of name is anchovy?" All right, and she's right. I got to call this grown man anchovy.
Yeah, it's doing
All
its
right.
job. Then it's doing its job.
My point is, you can't in one belief. Like I can't be the one person and believe Earth is rotating and Earth is orbiting, and then another guy who also believes that you can never know what's moving, and it could be Earth rotating or it could be everything's rotating around us. You know what I'm saying?
Well, if you agree that the way we
Hold on.
talk about
Do you
motion,
agree with what I just said? Do you agree with what I just said?
in a sense, not fully.
Oh, I don't know.
because
All right.
because what you're doing is you're setting those two people in the same reference frame and then making them disagree with each other, but that's never what happens. They have to be in separate reference frames in order to disagree with each other.
But this isn't about reference frames. This is about knowing what's moving, not look what it looks like is moving. So, in one idea of the mainstream PhD physics, you can never know what's moving.
Yeah.
And in the idea of the heliocentric model, you can know what's moving. We know Earth is rotating. We know Earth is orbiting around the sun.
um well, again, in the heliocentric model you're choosing a preferred frame at that point, so those two statements, if they're in separate frames, they're not contradictory.
No, the heliocentric model doesn't say it could be Earth is still and everything's orbiting around it. Their heliocentric model doesn't say that, does it?
um I would assume they choose the sun's frame, right?
Does the heliocentric set model say we might all be going around, everything might actually be going around Earth? Or does that sound like geocentrism? A whole nother different thing that they have massive debates about, right?
Well, again, you the reference frame is subjective, so no matter which ideology you go with, you're always choosing a frame to talk about it from. That's the whole point. Like you said, because you already agreed that the way you talk about motion is always relative to something, right?
Yeah,
If
but
I
I
were to
would say if we had a trees all around a car and if we had cars all around a tree in a circle, and everyone fired up their car, and we all drove straight at the tree, right? I would say we can definitely know it was the cars moving and not the tree. We can measure everything, all the speeds, all the distances. We can measure everything to the T and say for sure we know it wasn't the tree moving, right? But there would be other people that would say it could be the tree moving. We never know what's actually moving in reality.
That's because they're choosing a different reference frame from us.
Yeah, yes. So they're saying you can never know. No, they're saying you can never know what's moving. You can never know. On the other hand, there's these heliocentrists that say we do know what's moving. We actually know that Earth is rotating and Earth
Okay,
is orbiting around the sun.
yeah, but if you agree motion is always relative to something, then you would have to say the same thing. Because if I placed you in a sealed room where you're not sure if you're moving through absolute space, there's no windows, there's no doors, you would have no idea about an absolute claim. Your only claims of motion would be in that room relative to the frame you chose in the room. And you'd be arguing in that room
You're
while someone on the outside has a completely different argument.
you're not addressing what I said though. I'm trying to point out the contradiction in the people that are heliocentrists and know what's moving in one instance. When they're a heliocentrist, they absolutely know what's moving. They know Earth is rotating. They know Earth is going around the sun. And then these same people, contradictory to this first belief, believe that you can never know what's moving. You can never know what's moving in reality. Those are contradictory. Like you're not like I feel like you're not addressing that, and you're trying to say, well, I wouldn't know either, and like all these problems with me when I'm trying to point out a problem with somebody else's ideologies.
Uh, Because they're choosing a preferred frame. That would be my answer. Like, if you don't like them doing that, I can understand that. But like, because it sounds like you also want to have things relative. The way you look at motion is relative to something else, but then you also want a preferred absolute frame all the time, which are also contradictory.
No, one has
I didn't say
one
anything
has the
about
absolute.
the heliocentric has an absolute motion going on. Earth is rotating. That isn't. You don't need to reference anything else. They know Earth is rotating.
Geo centric has an absolute frame, which would be the Earth. Everything rotates around the Earth, so that would be everything relative to the Earth. And with Einstein relativity, everything's relative to light or each other.
They're not claiming an absolute in heliocentrism, right? They're just choosing the sun as the center. Right? To me, it's a utilitarian argument. They're placing the sun at the center and describing it from that frame.
Dude, the heliocentric model is making claims that Earth is rotating. That is a claim the heliocentric model makes. It's rotating. This isn't relative to anything else. That is just, is Earth rotating in the heliocentric model? The answer is yes, it is. That is the answer. There's not it could be like this, it could be like that.
Yeah,
That's
because
not the case. The answer is yes.
When you say in the heliocentric model, you are choosing a reference frame. So yeah, you've already set the coordinates up, and now you have to choose motion from that frame.
Okay, so they've picked their reference frame and they're saying this is actually happening in reality. This is the movement. This is moving in actual reality.
From that frame, yes.
No, they're not saying from that frame. You can't switch frames and say everything's rotating around it, because now you're in geocentrism, a completely different thing that they have heated debates on all the time. So
But
no,
Jeremy,
you can't just flip it and say, oh, I'm still in the heliocentric model.
You already agreed that you can't. You're doing the same thing, right? When you said that motion is
stop
relative.
worrying about what I'm doing, dude. I'm trying to point out the flaw. We can get to me after, but you can't address this though. You just can't do it.
I'm trying to address it by showing the hypocrisy.
There's a real contradiction there that they have going on.
I know. I'm trying to get you to understand that you're making the same contradiction if you agree that motion is relative to something.
It's not the same contradiction. I believe we can have a circle of cars around a tree and drive into the tree, and I can know absolutely that it wasn't the tree that moved into the cars. It was the cars that moved into the tree. These other people are telling you, stop. These other people are telling you, you can't know what moved, the tree or the cars. So it's not the same. It's not this. I'm not being hypocritical. Stop trying to put that on me.
With a circle of trees, that's not true. But that you would know when you have a bunch of objects circled around a point, they're all moving at the same.
Okay, well now you're
the object. You would be able to tell what object it is.
I believe you, and I agree with that. But now you're not debating me anymore. You're debating a PhD physicist. So you're talking to the wrong guy at this point. You need to be debating a PhD physicist.
No, how do you know the car isn't moving the whole world around the car?
Or is one stationary point?
Yeah.
Right, because what you're doing,
I think you're misquoting it. If I'm being honest.
You're choosing a frame, Jeremy.
A lot of that.
You're choosing a frame and saying that I know it's moving, and then when someone else chooses a different frame, you say no, your frame's wrong and my frame's correct. When if you do the math, like I said, if I put you in a room where you can't see the external world, your frame would be correct within your frame, but from an outside frame, you would be incorrect.
Right, so you run into the trap. You don't know what's moving.
You're just straw manning the shit. You're just straw manning the shit out of me.
Jeremy, I take it back.
This is different.
Jeremy, I take it back. I take it back. I don't think you would actually. I'm not sure you would be able to tell.
Yeah, you're straw manning the shit out of me. This isn't even about me, but you're still straw manning me because I know that the trees. I know that the tree didn't move towards the cars. It was the car that moved towards the trees. Okay, so
how do you know that?
Let's pause right there.
I'm not done. Not done. Still not done. This isn't even the point. This isn't the point. I'm trying to point out the flaw in somebody else's thinking. This isn't about me. This is about the guys who are heliocentrists and say they absolutely know Earth is rotating. But then on the other hand, the same dudes will tell you that we can never know what's actually moving in reality. That is a contradiction. You won't address that part. You just keep going to what I think and what I believe.
The reason I'm jumping to what you're saying is because I'm trying to get you to understand you're making the same mistake. Right, so I can talk about. I already
explained, Anchovy. It's not the same mistake. I know that the cars are moving. They're saying they don't know the cars are moving. It could be the tree moving into the cars. It's not the same. Stop saying it's the same. It's definitely different. I'm pointing out how it's different.
Yeah, and I'm asking you, how do you something's absolutely moving? Are you choosing a reference frame, a frame that you're in? You have to be. You already agreed.
I'm not choosing. Let me answer. Just let me answer. I'm not choosing anything. I'm measuring all the point. I already told you. We're measuring all the points, all the distances, and all the speeds. We also know how cars work. We know how trees work. Um, I'm not picking any specific reference frame. I'm gathering everything we know about the world, the physical world around us, and I'm going to know that trees don't do that. And in the manner in which it happened, it would have been impossible anyways because we had 9 cars all around the tree. You know what I'm saying? Like it's impossible for the tree to move towards the cars at that point.
At that point, haven't you just switched your reference point from from Earth centric to tree centric?
Right. He doesn't realize he is choosing a frame when he sets up these boundaries.
It's like the future. It's like the Futurama spaceship example. It's how are you sure that
I didn't hear what did Cooper say? I didn't hear it. All right, more people go.
I
More
said
people go. I
I'm
can't hear anyone because I'm
just
lagging
moving
a little
your
bit. So can we just
universe
have Cooper
to.
repeat his thing?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I would say like what did I say? Fuck, I kind of forgot. It's like aren't you just moving your universe center from the Earth to the tree when you do that example?
No, that's not what you're doing. You're gathering all the data and coming to a conclusion on what moved by what physical things happened and that sort of thing. We know how trees work. We know how
Doing it.
cars work.
you
You're
don't know
not
how
picking
cars
any
work?
specific reference frame. You're measuring it for all. You're measuring it from all over the place, and you would come to the conclusion that it's not even physically possible for the tree to do this, and it was the cars moving towards the tree. So it's not the same situation that the heliocentrists and the guys who never know what's moving are in, because they'll tell you you can't know if it was the tree moving towards the cars or the cars moving towards the tree. So it's not the same. I'm not being a hypocrite. This is not the same scenario I'm talking about. It's two different
It's
things. It's not the same.
it's
Yeah.
it's literally the same, Jeremy. And the fact that you can't understand that, it's really laughable. I'm gonna say again, how do you know the Earth? Or sorry, how do you know the car isn't moving the Earth? You claim that you know how cars work, but you like maybe we're all wrong.
I mean, you're not serious, are you?
No, 100%. Like
Okay.
there's a
You can't be.
Futurama
You're not allowed to be
there's-
serious with that shit.
No, it's a genuine question because Jeremy's going on about, oh, I know that the
It's
car.
not a genuine question because you know the answer.
No, it's a genuine question to Jeremy.
Well, again,
What you're trying to do. I think you're trying to stretch his position like past where it's reasonable, so that you can seem like you have a reasonable point, but I don't think you do.
No, he said he knows, but nobody genuinely knows. Like he has a belief system, just like everybody else locks in like a given like reference frame. It could just be the simple case that like we got physics all wrong, and the car is the thing that's moving the entire world, and every car is just moving the world at its own like reference frame, and you'd have no way to know.
And you think that Jeremy's funny? Some ways. Okay. So, okay.
Yeah,
Again, how would
that's
you know
not even
otherwise?
a steel man, dude. That's not even a steel man on relativity or like reference frames. You're just making
Yeah, it
random
is.
shit up, dude.
No, it's not.
Well,
It's like the
this
case
is like
example.
this is like a physics. This is a
It's like a
physics
freestyle.
joke, like from Futurama, where they
Yeah.
had the spaceship, the secret behind their super fast spaceship is actually it's moving the universe around it, and it's a relativity joke because it's all about
Yeah.
how you view the reference frame.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
not really a coherent joke because you're looking at can you establish what's moving?
yeah,
you
but the
can't.
way you do
That's
that,
Hold,
That's
don't
the
go with
joke,
the
yeah.
but. Don't go with the but. Just stop it. Yes. Okay.
Yes,
You
that's
can't.
the
So,
joke.
all right.
The
So
answer is
now
no.
we established right the true frame or the only reasonable frame.
no,
And you're like,
it's,
oh, we
But
can't do that. We're not
The
justified.
the
But you
only
just
reasonable
told
frame
me.
uses the design of that
Yeah, but
ship
you just,
is that
dude,
the
what are you
universe is
doing?
moving
What are you
around
fucking
it.
chanting through my point?
You're arguing
just
like
told-
against like a hypothetical joke, like the joke.
I'm not
Like
arguing against the joke. I'm
is like
making a
bouncing
point,
off
guys.
of you.
I'm making a point. What I'm trying to say is you can establish which one's moving. And then you say both are equally valid. I will say bullshit. They both can't be equally valid if you use this one to establish what's moving.
That's the joke.
you always have
He
to
doesn't get it.
choose. You always have
He
to
doesn't get it.
choose a frame, though, right? So if there's two simultaneous viewers, right? If I say I'm 2 miles east of this store and I'm 3 miles west of the airport, those aren't contradictory. I'm just choosing two different frames.
Yeah, we're talking about movement, right? Once we
Bullshit.
establish what's moving, all right, well, now we have the only valid frame.
Okay, if
I
you're in a
get
We
plane,
can't
right?
then jump to a different frame and be like, well, I don't know what's moving anymore. Well,
Well,
we've
yeah.
already established what's moving. why are you walking away from it?
That's the thing.
Act
No,
like
we're
the
not.
other one's equally as valid.
When we move the center of the frame to the ship moving, we don't. It's not that we don't know what's moving. We've just decided that that's what's stationary because that's how relativity works. That's the joke.
He doesn't get it.
So Rigor,
I
if
get
you're
it,
in a
but you
plane,
establish 2 frames. You say I established 2 frames. There's 2 frames equally as valid. I can establish movement in one, not the other, but both is equally as valid.
yes, because if you're in an airplane,
Now
right?
he's trying to.
If
Well,
you're in
he
an
said the
Oh my
word,
airplane,
but
god,
his
And now
answer.
all 3 of you
guys,
cut each other off.
we gotta go one at a time, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I got a response to make next. I had to restart my phone, so after this, I'm gonna go. But go ahead, one guy.
I was gonna ask Rigor if he agrees motion's always relative to something, right? If you're in an airplane, if you choose your motion relative to that, right, you're not moving, but relative to the Earth, you're moving pretty fast. And then relative to another plane, you might be moving slower, you might be moving faster. These are all true at the same
See, I
time.
disagree. I disagree with your notion that all frames are equally as valid. I look at there has to be an absolute frame. No matter what you do, you can't get away from it. An absolute frame has to exist.
We're talking about a descriptor, though, the way we talk about the motion. We're not talking about an absolute truth, right? You can't do an absolute because we understand the way we look at motion is always relative to something else.
Yeah, until it contradicts.
Which is where come in heliocentrism. You know the Earth is rotating in heliocentrism, so you can't be a heliocentrist and say, oh, the frame where Earth isn't rotating is just as valid or it's valid at all. You know it's not completely not true and false because you're a
Rotation
heliocentrist.
is not an inertial
It's not
frame.
true.
Remember?
But hold on, I can still say, like, in geocentrism, Earth could just not be moving. Everything could just simply. I don't know how you make that illogical connection, Jeremy.
I
There's
said you
other
can't
things
be a
that.
heliocentrist. Hold on, dude. I said you can't be a heliocentrist and know that Earth is rotating. You know, in heliocentrism, Earth is rotating. That's the truth in heliocentrism.
Sure.
You can't say, yeah, you can't say the other frame is just as valid, or it's valid, or it's maybe a little bit valid. It's completely the other frame is completely false if you're a heliocentrist, the one where Earth isn't rotating.
But we can make that because we're not making an argument about the reference frame. We would make other arguments about physics.
It's just a contradiction. You can't say in one Earth is
But there's
rotating and then the other one Earth is not rotating. That is a contradiction.
no, it's not because again, they're not competing with each other. You're saying according to this reference
You
frame,
guys are
this
fucking
one is.
wild,
They
bro.
are though. They are
Am I gonna be
competing
able
because
to?
one has acceleration and
You
one
guys are
doesn't.
off the
So they
hook,
are
dude. This is
competing.
crazy.
Hold
You're
on.
establishing
They both-
what's in motion based on acceleration. So they're competing. One has
both have
acceleration,
it.
one doesn't. Okay, the one that has
They,
acceleration is the one I'm going to use to establish that it's moving, and then I'm going to act like they're not competing. The competition is literally acceleration.
they both have acceleration. Ding dong. What do you mean?
A stationary tree has acceleration. Ding dong. Really?
Yeah, everything around the tree is accelerating.
Work the math on
Everything
that one
around
out.
everything around the tree is stationary. In reference frame to the sorry, the tree is stationary and everything around the tree is accelerating. Whereas if you look at the car, everything's accelerating around the car. What are you not understanding about that, ding dong?
Okay, so the tree's not accelerating.
Holy fuck! Yes, the tree is accelerating in the reference frame of the car. Do I need to repeat myself?
Yes, exactly. You just pick the frame to establish acceleration, and then you pick the tree's frame and you say, I can't establish acceleration. That's my point.
No,
Yeah, you 100%
because
get it then. You just
Are you
choose a
talking about
frame and then you
acceleration or
describe motion
velocity?
from that frame.
it's like he's saying the words, but his brain isn't clicking with what he's saying.
Yeah. Okay. Now you pick the frame, you establish what's happening from that frame. Okay.
Now he's
Cool.
getting it.
Now we're trying to figure out what matches reality. And we're saying if they're both equally as valid, then they both equally represent reality. One frame has acceleration and the other frame doesn't. How do you establish what the fuck is real? You
Hold on,
don't.
they both have acceleration. Like what the fuck
Are
are
you
you
talking
talking about?
acceleration or velocity?
All right. What are you measuring for acceleration with the tree?
Should be
The tree,
velocity.
in a collision, the only thing you care about, at least before the collision, is the relative velocity between the car and the tree. It's the only thing you can possibly know.
Yeah, and that's how you split the frames and you pick one.
Yeah,
You pick which one represents reality.
Now
Okay,
he's starting to get it.
therefore I establish acceleration, therefore I know which frame's
No,
valid.
are we talking acceleration or velocity? Let's pick one and stick with it.
How do you have one without the other?
Yeah, so an object sitting on the surface of the ground relative to you has an absolute acceleration. It is accelerating. Right? It may or may not be moving, i.e., have velocity, depending on your reference frame. But it absolutely is accelerating because an accelerometer.
Yeah, you're just convoluting reference frames. Like
absolute
this is so stupid. I ask you a question, you go convolute reference frames to make an argument that doesn't even address my question.
You have to. If you're talking about acceleration, then yes, things have accelerations. Things don't have velocity.
No, my question. I said,
They
how do you
do
have velocity
have
without
velocity.
acceleration?
You can, if you are accelerating, your velocity is changing, but you don't know what your velocity is because things don't have velocity. Things do have acceleration. You can measure the acceleration that an
Yeah, that's why I
object
pointed out
has.
acceleration is how you establish the frames. And you guys are telling me, no, it's not acceleration, it's velocity. And now you're saying it's acceleration?
No,
Pick one.
now you're just engaging in gobbledygook. You cannot determine the velocity of an object, period. You can determine its acceleration.
When you watch a car drive at you on a highway, you have no idea
That's what
how
I
fast
said,
it's
guy.
going. Only if it is moving closer to you. Only if it's accelerating. Right?
Yeah, well, why are you guys repeating me and act like you're like rebutting me? I said acceleration
because
is how you're going to establish the frame that's
Connect
accurate.
that
And you say the
concept.
same thing while you're
Connect that
acting like you're
concept of
challenging
what
my
I just
position.
said.
And you talk the
Connect
whole
that
way
concept
through
of
me.
what I just said.
Act like it didn't
to
happen.
what he just said, and those two things, those sentences. The sentence I said is related to what he said.
Yeah, it doesn't establish a reference frame. The acceleration of an object is just the acceleration of the object. You can use any reference frame you want. You'll find that the object has the same acceleration.
Yeah, you're just saying random shit now.
No, I'm not.
Like none of this has to do with the
Acceleration of an
point.
object. So the point is, regardless of what reference frame you use, the acceleration of an object sitting on the ground is 9.8.
Why do you keep
meters
saying
per second
acceleration when
squared.
earlier you said velocity?
I could talk
Were you
about
just going to
both
change your
things.
position and take my position? Act like you're arguing against me? Oh, that's real fucking genuine.
You're just trying to obfuscate things. It's this simple. Things have acceleration. They do not have velocity. Now, if you want to explore that further, we can
And that's
explore
how
that
you
further.
establish which frame is legit
No,
through acceleration. You said
No, you
no,
don't.
it's through velocity. Okay,
No.
make your argument that it's through velocity.
You do not
Jeremy.
establish the reference frame through acceleration. You can pick any reference frame you want. There's nothing that establishes
Not when you're talking
a
about
reference frame
reality, buddy.
other than you. You
All right, well then if
establish
you
the
take that
reference
position, you're basically saying, I don't know what the fuck's really moving. Like Jeremy's
because
pointing out.
nothing is really moving. There's
Oh
no
yeah, there we go. Make
such
believe land.
thing as absolute velocity. Things, once again, read my lips. There is no
Wipe 'em.
such thing as absolute velocity.
Yeah, there's no
does
such thing
not
as absolute
exist.
movement, is what you're gonna say.
When somebody says
That's
moving,
the whole.
you
That's
say
exactly what
relative to
Jeremy's
what?
original argument was. You will never be able to establish what's actually moving. Now you guys are agreeing with him. Earlier, you were saying, no, that's not right.
No, I already made the distinction that when you choose a frame, you choose to describe the motion from that frame. That is not an absolute claim. You're just arbitrarily choosing a frame.
And to be clear,
All right,
I have
then you
thought
have
about
no idea
Jeremy's
what's
circle
moving.
thing
That's the whole point.
pretty. Yeah. Okay.
Pick any reference frame you want.
So-
the acceleration of an object on the ground is 9.8 meters per second squared upward. I don't care what reference frame you use.
Yeah, but then you're saying you have acceleration. You're saying things on the ground are accelerating up at 9.8 meters per second. You're given the direction of up, and you're given the speed 9.8 meters per second squared.
It's not the speed.
But you won't say. Yeah, you're given the movement. The movement. Something's moving at 9.
Acceleration.
Something's
not the
moving at 9.
movement, The acceleration.
Will you just stop and let me finish? You guys are saying you have this acceleration, and if I make you give me the definition of acceleration, it'll have velocity in it. I
No.
guarantee it. So, but also the main point is that you can't have that happening on a globe. You cannot have the ground moving up. And if you're saying you have acceleration, if you're saying you have acceleration without movement, that's stupid. Something has to be moving. The object has to be moving down towards the ground, or the ground has to be moving up towards the object. One of those
What
in
do you
physical
mean by
reality.
moving?
I know you don't care. Hold on a second. Just hold on a second. I gotta just real quick. We gotta get it together, guys, and like try to not interrupt. So, but what do you mean by movement? You know, you're a PhD physicist. You don't know what movement means. Like, dude, this is beyond dumb. It's beyond.
It's an attempt
I think
to
you
be
get dumber.
vague.
Can you stop interrupting, please? I think you get dumber the higher you get in these levels, because as a kid they teach you things fall towards the earth at 9.8 meters per second squared. The things move down, right? You now all of a sudden you don't know what movement is beyond me. Did you forget 6th grade when they taught you that?
If you want to talk about motion, you have to be clear when you're talking about velocity, when you're talking about acceleration, when you're talking about rate of change of acceleration, when you're just talking about change of position rather than velocity. Lots of things are involved in motion, but my only point here is to say that objects do not have velocity. Velocity is not a thing that an object has.
Velocity is a change.
That literally makes no sense though. I have something, say I put it into motion and I have it going, I don't know, let's say 9.8 meters per second. So if I do 1 second, I put this thing in motion, I have it going 9.8 meters per second.
Relative to you.
You would say that's not, you would say that thing, just go on mute, dude. I'm not joking. Go on mute. I'll finish my thing and then you talk. Okay, that's how we got to do it, please. Can you do that, John? PhD
Yeah.
physicist? I don't know how you interact with professionals like this, but whatever. Just go on mute. So let's say we put something into motion at 9.8 meters per second. You're saying that thing has no velocity. But then if I now make it in the next second go 9.8 meters per second again, you would say it still has no velocity, even though now it's actually accelerating, because in order for it to accelerate, you had to do the first second. The things you're saying just aren't making, it's not even, that's not even coherent. Things don't have velocity. You wouldn't get acceleration if things didn't have a velocity. You got to have an initial speed for something to, for some acceleration to happen.
No. So when an object is accelerating at 9.8 meters per second squared, it means that in any frame, regardless of what velocity you may measure, that velocity,
You just said it has no velocity.
No, I thought it was my
You
turn.
just said things have no velocity. How are you measuring the velocity if it has no?
You can measure a velocity
Velocity.
within a reference frame. Velocities are measured relative to something else. That's the only time you can talk about velocities. Are unlike acceleration, velocities are always measured relative to some other chosen object. So that when you say you made that object move at 9.8 meters per second, I'm going to assume that what you mean is you made it move at 9.8 meters per second relative to you. Whether you're on the ground, whether you're in a plane, whether you're orbiting in the space shuttle, I don't care. But what you mean is that it's moving at 9.8 meters per second relative to you.
Does a flywheel measure its
You
velocity?
said multiple times, nah, Carlos, fuck no, dude. Nah, no way, bro. Hold on. You said a minute ago, things don't have velocity. That means if something's sitting still and it has no velocity, right? Relative to me, something's sitting still. But then if I make it go 9.8 meters per second, you're saying that still has no velocity. Or does it have a velocity now?
Jeremy,
what I'm
he's
saying
saying
is
velocity of
that
zero versus not having
you
a
can't,
velocity.
no, what I'm saying is that you can't tell me what, quote, the velocity, unquote, of an object is, because objects do not have velocity. Things you can look at an object and say that object has an acceleration of 0. And the reason you can say that is because things do have acceleration. It's a property of the object.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said you establish what's
Things do
moving through
have, hold on,
acceleration.
bro.
And you
Hold
told me
on,
no.
dude.
You said it was
Bro, hold on.
velocity.
Let me get it. You know
let me
what? Fuck
disagree
it. Go
too.
ahead. I don't even care. I
I just figured, why not, right? I think that that's even wrong. Velocity is not a property. So
You go, Snack.
So there you go.
Tell him, Snacks.
Things do not have a velocity, John.
That's what I just said.
Yeah. If nothing ever had a velocity, though, you can never get acceleration, because if I make something go 9.8 meters per second down the street, right, you would say that thing has no velocity. It's not. There's no speed to it, right? Yes or no? So I have a follow up. So just a quick yes or no, John. I don't need a whole speech.
No. So you can have, okay, I won't give you the whole speech. Ask me again.
No, you said no or yes?
If you want. Yeah, go ahead.
If something's sitting still on the street and then I move it at 9.8 meters per second down the street, does it have a velocity?
No.
Okay. Let's say for the first second, I move at 9.8 meters per second, right? So 1 second I do 9.8, but then the next second I square that. Does it now have it has an acceleration now, and in order to have an acceleration, you need a velocity.
No, so you squared the velocity. I guess I got lost at squaring the velocity. I don't know what it means to square a velocity.
Yeah, 9.8 meters per second squared. This next second I went faster.
You're talking about acceleration, not squaring a velocity. You said you squared the velocity.
Yeah, the 9.8 meters. The first one was a velocity according to anyone, but according to you, there was no velocity there. But I was making it move down the street at 9.8 meters per second, and then the next second for the first second I went 9.8 meters, which you say there was zero velocity there, so there's no movement.
I didn't say zero.
But then
I said it had no.
So
there is no velocity that you can attach to it. You can tell me that it's moving in your reference frame, but you can't tell me that it has a velocity of 9.8 meters per second. Velocity is not a property of an object. It's a property of a
When it
reference frame.
when it's moving,
An
it does.
object in a reference.
When it's moving,
an
it does.
object in a reference.
When it's moving, though, it does have velocity. And in order to get acceleration,
No.
you need to have. In order to get acceleration, you need.
Oh my God.
I mean, you
What
talk
has
the whole way
Maybe
through,
we
but in
give up.
order to get acceleration. All right, guys, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't realize it. I'll leave here. You go.
That too.
Well, I like what John was saying. Makes sense to me.
That was
No,
the whole
he
program.
Fundy
going
muted half
over.
of everything I
Go ahead.
said, and then other people were always trying to get in. Of course, you might have liked John's opinion more. Plus, you're heavily biased towards this goofy idea of never knowing what's moving, which is just ridiculous. Like I said, it's not the same boat I'm in. I can know what's moving certain times. Other times, you guys claim you can never know what's actually moving, which is just it's just ridiculous.
I'm pretty biased towards.
We can
physics.
definitely tell what's moving. Yeah, and you think in physics we can never know what's moving, but then you also believe in the heliocentric model, right? Where Earth's rotating. So we can
Rotation
never
is
know if Earth's.
absolute.
We can never know. So we can know what's moving.
You
Well,
can
is that-
tell.
You
You can
have
know
to
when
be able
something's
to.
rotating. Yeah,
Okay, in the
rotation.
heliocentric model, is
have-
Earth orbiting in the heliocentric model? That's a movement, right?
Yeah.
Wait,
So in what we know in the heliocentric model is that the velocity from one time to 6 months later changes by 60 kilometers per second.
So
We don't
you've
know what the
definitely
velocity.
moved. So you've
Well,
definitely moved in the heliocentric
if you
model.
want to
So we
say
can
that, yeah.
know. So we can know sometimes what is absolutely moving and what's not moving.
No, that's not true. So
We did
I
in
mean,
the
if you,
heliocentric model. Let me just run it back. Maybe I missed
Mhm.
it. In the heliocentric model, do we absolutely know that Earth moved?
I wouldn't put it that way. No, I would
You
probably
guys
say no.
you could have stationary Earth in the heliocentric model. All right, that's
No,
brilliant.
there's no such thing. Once again,
That's
there's no
fucking
such thing
brilliant,
as
John. You're a
stationary
you're a
Earth.
PhD physicist. That's crazy.
There's no such thing as stationary Earth because things don't have velocity.
They
Yeah, you
literally
ask him.
have
How do
to.
you know?
Be
Ask him. How do you know the
stationary,
Earth's
it
moving?
would have to
I don't.
have a velocity of 0. Things don't have velocity. It's not a property of an object.
You literally can't get acceleration until you have a velocity. You have to be going 9.8 meters per second for the first second, and then the next second you can go faster than that, and you add more velocity to it. And now you have acceleration. That's what acceleration is: a change of velocity.
Right, you don't only have to know the
So
change. You
how do
don't
you?
have to know the actual velocity. If you go from 10 to 20 meters per second, it's the same as if you go from 30 to 40. So you can know that it was a change in 10 meters per second without knowing,
Exactly.
you know,
You don't have
without
to know the
knowing
velocity. You
vision.
just have to know the change.
Yeah,
Yes, but you would know it
you
had a velocity. You would know it had a velocity before you upped it, because now you have acceleration. That's the point. He was saying nothing ever has velocity, which is
And what I was saying is that things don't have velocity is not a property of an object. You can't tell me what the velocity of something is because things don't have velocity. Why is
Yeah,
it
so
so hard?
things do have velocity.
Oh,
I
he's
don't
right.
understand that. Can you explain that to me? Sorry, I just got in. Things
But
don't
you
have.
got-
So
you're basically
Somebody's
saying.
got a brutal mic.
I think velocity because irritation. Oh man, hold on, is that me?
Yeah.
It was, but you're also lagging.
It's like it goes like this. It's like I can't tell what's moving. Everything's just relative, but I can establish there's a change in motion. Well, how the
A
fuck
change
did
in
you do that?
velocity.
How'd you do that? Because things don't have velocity. Okay, cool.
If something doesn't have velocity, how can you have a change in velocity?
Just what
This
whoever
is
Matthew
fucking
just
brilliant.
said,
You guys
right?
are straight
If
up
you
geniuses.
change from
A
10
velocity.
to
Hold on, wait.
20,
Is my mic?
Yeah.
Is my mic any better? Okay, so a velocity describes a relationship between two things. So if I take say I fire a dart at 100 FPS at a target that's moving 100 FPS away from where I fired it, what's the velocity of the dart?
0.
Was that for me or Jim?
0. That's right. It doesn't. It's just a question in general for the room. What's the velocity of the dart?
If you have acceleration, you have a change of velocity, so it obviously moved, right?
Yeah, I fired it, and now it's
It
fired, and it's
definitely had
flying
a
stably.
velocity.
It was stationary, and I accelerated, and now it's moving at 100 frames per or 100 feet per second at a target that's moving away from it at 100 feet per second.
Yeah. So at
What's
some
its
point,
velocity?
in your scenario, at some point, it definitely had a velocity, right?
It has a velocity in the situation I'm describing in the relationship between these two things. It's 0.
In the situation you're describing, when it was stationary, moving away from the target, it had a velocity then, or when you sped it up to move it towards the target, it must have been moving then. There's no scenario in your scenario, there is movement, and it did have a velocity. At some point in your scenario, there was a velocity.
The velocity is not an intrinsic part of the object. It is a relationship. It describes a relationship between it and another
It's when it
object.
moves. It's when it moves.
If it moves, okay.
It has
All right,
velocity.
I tried. Good
If
luck.
it moves, it has velocity. Yeah, that's velocity. It's a movement. And acceleration is a change of velocity.
Right. So if an object is accelerating, then its velocity has to be changing. But that does not mean that you can tell me what its velocity was
The
at
velocity
any
that it
given
doesn't
point.
have.
Because I'm talking now, because when an object, the velocity of an object depends on the reference frame. If it's accelerating, then its velocity will be changing regardless of what reference frame you use. But you don't know what the velocity is because that depends on the reference frame. The acceleration does not depend. The absolute acceleration of an object does not depend on the reference frame you choose to use. It's a property of the object, not of its motion relative to a reference frame.
Yeah, it's just convolution, dude. I don't know what the fuck you're on about.
No, it's like this. Objects do have a velocity, but only in reference to a reference frame. They don't have some sort of magical inherent velocity. It's only in reference to some
Yeah, but
frame.
who's making? I don't know. You're just saying, well, it has zero velocity, but it doesn't have
No,
zero
it's,
velocity.
saying zero velocity is different than saying it has no velocity, no inherent velocity. Saying zero velocity is saying there is a velocity and it's zero. That's different than saying it has no inherent velocity.
But it's always going to have a velocity measurement. And you're saying it doesn't always have a velocity
Well, if
assigned
you
to it.
use
It's like it
if you
has
use
to.
a reference, every time you use a reference, you can come up with a velocity. But there's no inherent reference, so there's no inherent velocity.
Right. Well, that's just saying that like it has zero velocity. I mean, what are you even saying at that point?
No, saying it has no velocity is different than saying it has zero velocity.
Right, but you're saying I will always assign a velocity value to it, but it doesn't. And John's like making some weird fucking argument to be like, no, it doesn't always have that. It's not always
In the same
velocity
way.
isn't always assigned to an object. It's like, yeah, no matter what frame you pick, you're gonna assign velocity to every
I think
object.
John's saying it doesn't have a sort of magical built-in inherent velocity. All the
Right?
velocity
Nobody
you
thinks
ever
velocity is physical though. Like, I don't think anybody's saying velocity is this particle that floats around within it and like it grows. It's not even like
Acceleration is. The acceleration
to
of
say
an
like a
object is
property
a
property of
property.
something is like
The acceleration of an object is a property of the object.
you're not saying anything. You're just convoluting the conversation. Nobody's saying it's a velocity is a piece of matter.
I didn't say acceleration is a piece of matter either. But the point
What
is that when I have something sitting on the
So you
surface of
just
the
don't
Earth,
address it.
anybody can determine the absolute acceleration of that object, regardless of what reference frame you choose. And everybody will agree that its absolute acceleration is 9.8 meters per second squared upward. The accelerometer in that object will tell you that that's what it's doing.
So absolute acceleration.
Absolute acceleration.
Well, there you go. Then you just picked a frame, an absolute frame.
wait. If you accelerate from 10 to 20 miles per hour, that's an acceleration of 10 miles per hour. But also, if you go from 80 to 90, that's also an absolute acceleration of 10 miles per hour. So just because you know the absolute acceleration that you went that you increased by 10 miles per hour does not mean that you have an absolute velocity. It means you have an absolute acceleration, but not an absolute velocity.
Right, but if you say there's absolute acceleration, then you're saying there's an absolute frame.
No,
And
there's
he just said
10
that.
miles an hour. No, there's two frames. One you're going 10 miles an hour, one you're starting at 80 miles an hour. Two different frames.
Yeah, no, but
Same
you have no
acceleration.
reference in relation
Right.
to what? An absolute frame. That if you say there's absolute acceleration, it would be in reference to an absolute frame.
They're called inertial frames, right?
And that's how much you
Accelerations,
convolute, John. You don't even know what you're saying, guy. And you're like some PhD? Come on, bro.
You
absolute
have a PhD
accelerations are
in
measured
very well.
relative to inertial frames. And in relativity, inertial frames are local frames. They're free falling frames. They're free falling frames because an accelerometer in free fall has zero absolute acceleration. So to know the absolute acceleration of something else, you simply measure its acceleration relative to an object that has zero acceleration, i.e. a freely falling object, and that gives you its acceleration. When you're on the surface of the Earth, freely falling objects accelerate downwards at 9.8 meters per second squared relative to you. Therefore, you accelerate at 9.8 meters per second squared upward relative to them. And since their absolute acceleration is zero, your absolute acceleration is 9.8 meters per second squared upward.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Once you say absolute acceleration, it's over, buddy.
No, it's not. He's been very clear and concise, and he's exactly right.
No, you have to pick a frame to say within this frame there's acceleration. You can't just make a
Nope.
claim that there is absolute acceleration.
I just did.
Because then
I just
you
made that
estab-
claim, and,
Yeah,
and
then
I
you just
and
Utter the
establish
word
then you just
to invoke
establish an absolute
velocity
frame.
is to pick a frame. If you're talking about velocity, you have already picked a frame. It's tautological.
there you go. That's right. This part of it, I mean, I just want to be clear. This, when you start talking about the acceleration thing, I made some nasty comments in chat earlier because it was the stupid thing about the tree and the car, which really is a stupid conversation. When we start talking about acceleration, things do get, and then you have to decide: are you going to talk about Newtonian physics or
A stupid
relativistic
conversation you
physics?
decide to jump into. Imagine that.
It is because
And to be fair, as somebody who is a relatively supporter and not flatter, I think that thought experiment of the cars in the circle around a tree is a good one to stretch like the common understanding of what relativity, because that one threw me for a second too until I thought about it more. Is like, well, if I have all of the cars meeting the tree at the same time, why shouldn't I be able to tell what's actually moving? It's like, oh, well, if this one's moving half speed or 10 miles and this one's moving 20 and blah, 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 blah. It actually takes it's not necessarily common sense that doesn't work. It warrants explanation.
was that, I mean, I may not have understood. Are you referring to this thing where you have a bunch of cars all approaching the same tree at some speed?
Yeah.
Or? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a good one. That is a little harder. You have to really kind of do some vector analysis to really understand that one.
Yeah. To come up with a frame where the tree is the one moving is like you do have to. It either requires you to be good at math or to have a flexible imagination.
So this is how I look at it. This is how I've always looked at it. Is like, and I know you guys, some of you guys understand, but this is how I've always explained it. If you're looking straight down at the solar system and through a camera and you put the sun in the center of the camera, everything's going to be going around the sun. If you just simply slide over top of the Earth, all those motions remain exactly the same, but all of a sudden the Earth is in the center and the entire universe then would be going around the Earth. They would be making different patterns if you trace the patterns out, the loops and different things as the planets go around, but they would still be the same basic exact motions. And that's how I look at it with the car and the tree. Yes, we understand in our minds that the car runs into the tree. We all understand. We can look at it and say, okay, that makes more sense that the car hit the tree. But you can think about it as the tree is completely still and the entire universe basically moved to allow you can look at it as the car is basically still is what I mean, and the entire universe moved to allow the tree to come to the car rather than the car running into the tree. It's the same exact motions regardless, but you can say that the car is still and everything everywhere moved to bring the tree into the car rather than the car running into the tree. And that's how I try to think about it in my mind, and I've tried to explain that to Jeremy, but he argues with me about it.
That's just kinematic equivalence, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so it's the kinematic equivalence that Witzig talks about all the time.
Yeah, if you traced everything out, just like if you're looking down at the sun and you then slid over to the Earth and you look straight down to the Earth, you would have what's the spirographic way that they used to think the planets moved around the Earth?
The Ptolemaic system or something.
Yeah, but what did they call those?
Those epicycles.
Epicycles. It would create epicycles if you moved over to the Earth and you put the Earth in the center of the view of the camera and everything then was moving around the Earth. But even though then at that moment you could trace their paths out and they look like epicycles, that's just simply because you're looking down at the Earth and putting it in the center of your view as your reference frame. But that does not mean that the Earth is not really going around the sun. It's just that's the way you're imagining it at that time, and that's how I equate that the tree can actually move into the car. If you pause the car in reference to everything else in the universe, the entire universe could move in a very particular way. Everything that would allow the tree to actually hit the car rather than the car hit the tree.
Only conceptually.
Yeah, in your mind. It's a mind thing.
That's what. Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of the Earth going around the sun is just in the mind as well. It's just a concept. Because you can, like some of these things, like you said, are transferable. You can have the sky moving above stationary Earth. Like, even though you can interpret it as the sun going around, or the Earth as a ball going around the sun, there's also transferability to some of the geometries of the sky just moving above a stationary planar Earth.
Yo, can I test one of my new Aries failures arguments on Super John?
Oh, I love Aries failure. Let's go.
I came up with John's name.
So-
John, you got that for me, right? When I said Super John in the chat?
Well, you know, I think actually, I hate to tell you, Gio, but I think Riggs gave me the name. It might be
Riggs
you.
gave
I
you
might be
chlamydia.
wrong.
Remember what?
I might be wrong, but I think it came from him, and then it's kind of advanced from there.
Well, I don't care. I don't care who it.
Because-
I don't care who it came from. I was just saying that at one point when you changed your avatar logo to that, I typed Super John in the chat, and then I saw your name was that, and then I saw your name was that. So someone else might have seen it, or whatever the case may be. But I thought just because when I typed it, your name had changed to it like a day later, so I figured someone saw it. I thought maybe you did or whoever.
I had changed the avatar because somebody, and as I say, I think it was Riggs, changed my name to Super John.
All right. Anyways, what's up, Q Up? You got something good, dude?
So we're gonna talk about Aries failure.
Yeah, me and Alan are trying to work on considering a connection I just made. So I want to test the it's kind of like newly something that came up, the connection I'm newly kind of put together, and Alan just said that he thinks I might have something, so he's gonna like work. He's gonna think about it some more because it is kind of difficult to figure out, like based on the apparatuses and the globe model and all their excuses. There's a lot of stuff to consider. I'm just run it by John real quick. So so you're familiar with how a ring laser gyro is set up, and right?
Yep.
And then Michelson-Morley is set up with perpendicular arms and parallel arms to the Earth, so to try and measure Earth's linear motion. That failed. It's not really my argument right now. But a ring laser gyro is set up parallel to the Earth just to measure Earth's rotation. So you know how Fizeau's experiment is set up?
So I think to measure Earth rotation, technically, I think you need, because a single ring laser gyro measures rotation around one axis. So to measure 3-axis rotation, you need 3 of them, I think. But at any rate, I'm not sure where you're going, but yeah, go ahead.
All right, hold on. Can I just do an intermit just from the last thing? Did you make that avatar of? Because I just looked at it. It's Superman with a J, and then that's you.
Yeah.
So did you make that
That's
with
me.
AI or something?
I gave Gemini 1 prompt, and it gave me even better than I had hoped for. I kind of imagined something a little different, but it was perfect.
Because I mean, the name Super John, even though I typed it, you said Riggs change your name to it or whatever. But yeah, I mean, the name would just come with, because it looks like you're Superman with a J. So Super John.
Well, that's me. That is actually me.
Yep. All right, go ahead, Q Up.
No, it's just still working on this. I don't have it all figured out yet, but hopefully Alan helps me out and he shouts me out if he uses it in a presentation. But so we got Fizeau's experiment set up parallel to the
You broke up there.
Earth, and they measure. I'm like now.
I hear you.
You were lagging for a minute, so maybe start over. We kind of heard it, but it was lagged a little.
You got OpenArt. OpenArt is working on an AI video for me right now.
You got to realign the satellites for Starlink to get them to line up for you.
I don't have it set up yet. It'll all be fixed by then once I have Starlink.
What's up, buddy?
Yeah. But yeah, so so Fizeau's experiment is set up parallel to the Earth. Ring laser gyros set up parallel. Fizeau's experiment only measured the the Fresnel drag effect.
So just one quick thing.
Velocity increase, but no.
Fizeau's doesn't really. It's not. I mean, you say parallel to Earth. I'm not sure what you mean. Fizeau's didn't really care what the orientation of the Earth was.
Well, the hypothesis didn't care, but the setup is the same as a ring laser gyro, pretty much.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Fizeau's experiment would behave the same way regardless of its orientation. So it's not a. I mean, it wasn't.
Well, as regards to measuring the influence of water, moving water, yes.
Yeah, right. What's important is the motion of the water relative to the lab.
Yeah, but so right, so you're not. So I mean, this is a good sign that you don't seem to have any refutation of what I'm kind of proposing.
Not yet.
Yeah, I think I'm onto something.
No, the short of it is that Fresnel came up with his partial ether drag theory, essentially to explain Arago's results in the early 1800s. And then I don't know, was it 1820 or 1830 when Fizeau did his? Fresnel's partial ether drag had another success. And the important point is that Fizeau's partial ether drag theory, the idea of a water-filled telescope had been proposed much earlier, like 1760, I think, by Boscovich. And at that time, it was intended to distinguish between Newton's corpuscular theory of light, which would have predicted a smaller aberration angle, and the kind of rising wave theory of light, which seemed to predict, at the time at least, a larger aberration angle. Boscovich said, well, we can do this experiment. We can figure out which is which. And I don't remember exactly why they didn't do it at the time, but they didn't. By the time Fresnel had had his two successes explaining Arago's failure and Fizeau's and the result, both of which relied on Fresnel's partial ether drag, it was understood that Fresnel's partial ether drag meant that the aberration angle in a aberration experiment wouldn't change in a water-filled telescope. Under the wave theory, it would make no difference whether you filled the telescope with water. So by the time it got to Klinkerfuse did the experiment, and he reported an increased aberration angle. Main reason that Airy redid the experiment was that he knew that would contradict Fresnel's theory.
Yeah, so I mean,
yeah.
Bro, Aries himself basically said that experiment by Klinkerfuse is completely irrelevant. Most likely, I think is a complete hoax that they were trying to pull, and then they decided to just go with Fresnel drag as the explanation and actually do
Fresnel's drag is an ether theory, right?
Aries himself said that. Yeah, but they repackaged it in relativity, and they just call it something different.
Yeah, I think Klinkerfuse was the victim of wishful thinking. He really wanted to see the
No, I think he made it up completely.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he did. I actually had a long conversation with AI trying to talk me down. I was taking that attitude. It seemed to me he had to have just made dry labbed it. I said, well, he might not have. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of with you, but it doesn't matter because we now know for sure that that's not what happens.
Well, it does matter for conspiracy theorists. For conspiracy theorists like me, it does matter that they might have tried to fake, the result that the globe.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, of course, I mean, Airy was certainly understood that Airy understood that the heliocentric understood that Klinkerfuse result would have contradicted Fresnel's already successful hypothesis, so he didn't believe it. When he failed to reproduce it, that was exactly what he expected.
Yeah, it's hard to get in when I'm delayed. So when from Earth, the Earth fixed the reference frame.
Yeah, you are lagging badly, but I think we didn't miss anything. Sorry.
Right. So how can from Earth's reference frame, kinematically you see the star's angle, but as far as the dynamics of the water moving, it's actually no matter what the reference frame is, the water is moving in relation to the light coming down. Correct?
Well, under the old ether theory, yes, but not in relativity.
No, in reality, I was asking.
Well, I mean, that's in reality. Once again, now I don't know what you mean by reality. The question is only what a theory predicts and what you actually observe.
So if some observer really far away doesn't notice me moving in my car because he's so far away from his reference frame, doesn't mean I'm not moving. And if an experiment from his reference frame detects no motion in my car, obviously there's a problem there because whether or not he can see it, the car is moving.
Well, now it sounds like you're just talking about measurement uncertainty.
Oh, bro.
Noah, you're bra miking right now.
My bad, bro. I just seen the nicest F-150 Raptor in my life just go by.
Nice.
But yeah, so all these it's amazing how many less ridiculous theories we have to come up with as a flat Earth stationary ether theorists to explain all the Fizeau's experiment, matched undulatory theory, Airy's failure is not a failure, Michelson-Morley is not a no result. It's a good time. We don't, it's why you guys don't attack us with the.
Well, so can you explain to me? This is the part I never understand. I mean, how do you explain just the fundamental aberration?
Oh, it's actually it's a real effect within the ether. Like it's actually the angle is actually changed within the ether.
Every 6 months by 30 kilometers per second.
Yeah, I mean there's a cyclical basis of how the ether undulates and spins and stuff.
Okay. So how do you explain? Does that explain, because the aberration stars near I can't remember. Anyway, some stars undergo circular aberration motions, some undergo elliptical, and some just go back and forth. And that has to do with, that's the ecliptic. That depends on the angle to the plane of the sun's Earth orbit.
Wasn't it a failure because it actually failed to disprove heliocentrism, and the results were more in line with a geocentric worldview? Like in his time, like during his time, not today, not reinterpreting it from Einstein's like whatever. Back in his day, they called it a failure because he was trying to test for Earth moving around the sun, and in that he failed to detect the motion of the Earth around the sun. Thus, it actually was more of a geostationary result. Given their not talking about, this was before relativity. This was in the 1800s, 1871. So that's why it was a failure. It was a failure of heliocentric detection.
Well, I don't think so. I think that the failure was a failure to reproduce Clinker fuse result. It was a failure to see.
We just agreed. We just agreed. We can't prove that was real.
Sorry.
We just agreed. We don't know if that was even a real experiment or just something he made up.
No, I agree with that. But I mean, I do think that the fact it was called a failure originally simply because it was a failure to reproduce Clinker fuse result.
No, I'm gonna read this.
It wasn't his result. It wasn't his result. It was the prediction of the model.
Here we go. Let me just read this out. The experiment known as Airy's failures proved that the stars move relative to a stationary Earth, not the other way around. By first filling a telescope with water to slow down the speed of light inside, then calculating the tilt necessary to get the starlight directly down the tube, Airy's failed to prove the heliocentric theory since the starlight was already coming in at the correct angle with no change necessary, and instead proved the geocentric model.
Well, Airy's wasn't trying to prove the heliocentric
Thank
model.
you. Thank you for that summary. Very helpful, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, Airy's wasn't trying to prove the heliocentric
You're
model.
welcome, A6. If that, I don't know if that was sarcastic or not, but if it was genuine, then you're welcome.
It was genuine, bro.
Yeah, no problem.
Anyway, the point is there was no lack of consensus on that point. Everybody, Dayton Miller, Michelson-Morley, Clinker Fuse, Fresnel, all of them knew that the Earth orbited the sun. That was not at issue. The only question was, how does light work? And at that point, people really didn't understand how light works.
Yeah, I would definitely take opposition to the idea that they really thought that they knew that, even if you think that you were convinced that they thought they knew that.
Well, they all thought that. That's for sure. You might say they were wrong, but there's no question that there was no physicist who questioned the fact that the Earth orbited the sun. Just like there was no physicist who questioned, you'll like this, there was also no physicist who questioned the existence of the ether at the time.
Okay, so this is kind of like, the issue is that basically everything you guys are doing when you're looking into space is all, and looking at the horizon, is all optic based. It's never a physical measurement. It's always an optic measurement. So like this whole theory of how light works and how the globe works is like intertwined with the other. They're actually part of like a supermodel, essentially. So like, and they don't even have the path of light. They don't understand light at all, dude. They don't even know what light does over the course of a mile.
Yeah, it's all about light. It's all optical things, and like the horizon or above, and then within interferometry, how light travels and how it undulates and all these things, which make complete sense with the ether framework.
Yeah, I mean, it is true that they all kind of intertwine. The thing that I think non-scientists often underappreciate is what an incredible web of consistency science weaves. You can't just take one thing and say nuh-uh to it, because that just causes a domino effect in just an incredible web of observations that are all consistent with respect to all sorts of known things. the Earth orbiting the sun being just one of those things.
It's just a philosophy. It's like an egregore. It's like this collective thought pattern that they got going, and people just bought it without any actual proof for it. It's psychology based. I mean, authorities can put control over people, and they will just obey. It's pretty intense. Like, get into the whole discussions of religions and other things that some people link to that as well. But it's just a concept. I mean, back in 1872, what proof did they have that they were going around the sun?
Well, I just want to say this real quick. And that is this is actually an answer to what Gio just asked. But essentially the model goes, we look up in the sky, therefore we're on a globe. And then you say, like, well, how do you know that? Oh, because we know how light behaves. How do you know that? How do you know light behaves that way? Oh, because we looked up in the sky and then it told us it's a globe. Like, it's completely circular. Like, the behavior of light is based off of a globe model.
Not how we
And
know the behavior of
shut
light.
the fuck up, you low IQ drooling moron, while I'm speaking.
No, that's not needed, dude. But don't interrupt. Let's not do
Dude,
that.
dude, this guy's on
Let's
my
just
last
strike that from the
nerve.
record, bro.
This
Strike
guy's on
that
my
from the
last
record,
nerve.
but let Noah finish what he's saying. Strike it from the record. Go.
This guy's on my last nerve, dude. Him and Demon Stride are on a fucking new level.
Well, ever since okay, I won't say that. Just go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, we assume the behavior of light that gives us the globe result, and we know the globe result is correct because of our assumed version of light. Like, it's completely like the globe depends on the light model, and the light model depends on the globe model. There's no actual like primary logical source in which it stems from, and they actually do like an experiment. It's all when it comes to like astronomy and their study of light, it's all just assumptions that it's already a globe and that the light already works that way.
Okay, now I'll say it. What we know about light has nothing to do with the globe or space.
Yeah, nothing about that's what I was just going to say too. The things we're talking about
ignorant
here,
shithead.
regardless of which side you come down on, heliocentrism or geocentrism, require you to start with a globe. If you're going to make the heliocentric geocentric distinction, which Alan always does, and it always surprises me, then you have to start with the fact that the Earth is a globe. If you're going to argue geocentrism, you are arguing for a globe. Okay, so that's the problem, right? We start with assuming the Earth is a globe, and then based off of that, we give our model of light, and then our model of light then goes and reifies the globe again. It's completely circular. That's a circular argument. It's a formal logical fallacy. There is this much truth in that, in the sense that we come up with say, oh, what about this? It would explain that, and if we just stopped there, then it would be circular. But if a theory doesn't make additional predictions that haven't been checked out, then it's not a scientific theory. If all it does is you just say, oh, God did that. Well, that doesn't explain anything because it doesn't make any further predictions. So a scientific theory has to make predictions for observations, things that when you actually set up your equipment and make a measurement, that has to predict the value of the thing you're going to measure. And if you don't measure that thing, something that's never been measured before, to be what the theory says it should be, then the theory's wrong, period.
But I just want to say again, though, that yes, figuring out what light does in space, we use the globe model, but our understanding of light itself does not have to have the globe model. We can figure out the speed of light, we can figure out what light does, how it acts, and everything else without caring about the Earth being a sphere and in space. So you're wrong when you say that it's a circular argument.
No, your light is not figured out. You've done no tests for it. You have no idea how it moves throughout the environment. You literally just say it's a globe, and if it's a globe, the light has to behave this way. And because the light behaves this way, it proves a globe. That is completely circular. There is no tests for the path of light. They've never done it. They've never measured it over the course of a mile, let alone light years and light years. Thank you very much.
We are so good. We are so good at measuring light. We are so good at measuring light. We've built devices to make 4 nanometer computer chips using light. We know light almost as good as anything on this planet. You're just lying when you sit there and act like humans don't understand light.
Yeah,
knowing the course of light over 4 nanometers is completely and utterly an asinine point to bring up when we're speaking about light over the course of light years and billions of miles. Is completely a scaling fallacy, completely asinine. They have nothing over the course of a mile, let alone 2 billion miles. And to bring up 4 nanometers, which is orders of magnitude below a mile, is really just not an argument. Thank you very much.
See, this shows your level of intelligence. I think you've injected too much synthol into your brain.
Bro, ad hoc, without him.
Your level of intelligence shows that you don't understand nothing I'm talking about. 4 nanometer
just
chips. 4 nanometer chips.
Like,
not 4 nanometers of light movement. Hold on, let me finish. 4 nanometers chips.
Let's pull the red card because you start out with an ad hom. You can't do that. So now it goes back to Noah. Maybe we could do
No,
it.
bullshit. He starts out with ad homs every time he talks, or he ends with them.
Okay, so basically,
so why don't you be fair, Gio?
He's basically appealing to a 4 nanometer chip when we're speaking about scales and distances that are billions of miles, billions and trillions of miles through unknown mediums. He's just going to assume their behavior because they know the behavior kind of over the course of 2 nanometers. Complete
So anyway,
utter
now I'm
scaling
going to finish
fallacy.
what I was saying. You
Complete utter
paused. I'm
scaling
going to
fallacy.
finish,
Your rebuttal is a
or we can
fallacy. Hence, your
listen to
rebuttal is a
fallacy
your rebuttal
shit.
is a your rebuttal is a fallacy. Hence, it isn't actually a real argument. Isn't actually a real rebuttal. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now again, Geo, with your permission, we don't. I wasn't talking about 4 nanometers of light. I was talking about we understand light so well that we can make chips using light to make 4 nanometer chips, very, very small, in the range so small now that like quantum mechanics is starting to affect them and everything else. You have to understand light to a very high degree in order to do the stuff that they do to make what we use in our computers nowadays. So to sit there and say that we don't understand light, it's never been measured, blah, 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 that's just a lie. And everybody in here that knows anything about it understands it's a lie.
Okay, so he just appealed to the room at the end, which is a fallacy, and then he just repeated the same fallacious rebuttal that he said earlier that I already debunked. So he said a rebuttal, I exposed it as a fallacy, as a scaling fallacy, and then he just repeated it. He didn't actually make it any less fallacious. Hence, he has nothing standing as an argument on his side. Our side still has an argument standing. Thank you very much.
Can I actually interject? 'Cause I actually think both of your sides are like right in a certain way. And I don't know if you guys are just not understanding each other or whether you actually are saying different things. Because on the level of a small scale, obviously we are pretty advanced as a human race to what we can do with light. I mean, fiber optics are pretty amazing, lasers. There's a lot of things that are pretty amazing. And then microchips and all kinds of other technologies and things that occurs. There's even like a new type of like Wi-Fi. It's called Li-Fi. It's like using light to send data. But I think you have to have like it doesn't go through walls, and that's like one of the issues they've had with it. And so it's sort of, if you have to have like a line of sight to it, it kind of changes the whole situation for getting internet from it. But anyway, so there's a lot of advanced things with light, but at the same time, we as a human race, even in the most cutting edge, seems to also in a way not even really understand it like at all from a completely contradictory level. Like, yeah, maybe we do understand how to manipulate it or use it, etc. But what it actually is and how it's actually functioning, like that's where, and then you get into the other, like the truth of it all. It seems like there's a lot missing. And then to take it to the level of like light years out in space, yeah, I hear what Noah's saying. Like there's a lot of assumptions baked into that because you're assuming an entire medium, you're assuming an entire like framework at which light is now traveling. And so that part I would agree with what he's saying as well. Like there's really no like direct empirical way that this light travel in the outer space has been validated.
But wouldn't that be we don't understand the medium past the upper atmosphere rather than we don't understand light?
No, it wouldn't be. We don't even understand the course of light over 1 mile. We don't have that. We don't have the measurement for that. It's just an assumption. And so we're assuming what light does. We're assuming what light does over the course of a mile. We've never tested it. We've never measured it. You're not going to bring up one citation because I've been waiting for that citation for 7 years. It's not been brought up once. It's never been done. And thus, we just assume what it does over the course of a mile and then extrapolate that assumption billions and trillions of times over. It's completely fallacious. Thank you very much.
So the measurements of Michelson-Morley using light are also fallacious, or at least we can't make any conclusions based on that because we also haven't measured light over that equally. We just measured the light at the end. We didn't measure light the entire path through Michelson-Morley's apparatus, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a red herring. We're talking about the path of light, dude. Like the course light takes on its way to things.
Michelson-Morley's apparatus was entirely about the path of light.
That's a red herring. That's a red herring. Like the Michelson-Morley thing has nothing to do with the like. If we're speaking generally about the course of light, to then say, but what about this or whatever? Doesn't this depend on it? That wouldn't like if something depends on a bunch of assumptions. It's kind of like there's the fundamental thing, the course of light, and then there's the Michelson-Morley that's built upon that assumption. So like to say what about this doesn't actually defend the assumption that I'm attacking. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't say what about this.
You're not actually defending the course of light because you can't.
You're right.
You're
right.
actually red herring. You're red herring away from something and then saying like,
no.
oh, but what about?
No, I'm saying
that's a diversion.
For the purpose of hold on, you don't have to interrupt me there. For the purpose of for this discussion, I can say sure we don't know shit about the path of light. That would also then mean we didn't know shit about the path of light for the Michelson-Morley experiment.
Then that doesn't attack my original argument. So like you haven't.
I'm granting your original argument for the sake of this discussion.
I win.
Congratulations, and now we throw out Michelson-Morley as a consequence.
Hey, bring back the ether.
No, we throw out what they did measure. The 6 kilometers a second.
Well, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like you conceded
or
the original argument.
we acknowledge that we don't actually know what they measured, whether it's ether or otherwise. Because if we don't know about
that's a red herring. It doesn't pertain to the argument. You've already conceded to the original argument, which your entire globe model is based off of. Without that, you have no globe because you have no physical
I'm
measurements.
granting that.
All you have is you have
for
no
the sake of
physical
this problem.
measurements. You have no physical measurements. All you have is optical measurements. Now, you just conceded that you have no optical measurements, or at least you're like the conclusions of your optical measurements are not valid, given your concession to what I said earlier. So you have no globe. Nicholson Morley having a bad result is the least of your issues. It's kind of a red herring. It's
We've got no
inconsequential.
globe. We've got no globe. We've got no Ayres failure. We've got no Mickelson-Morley. Like this is like baby and bathwater and kitchen sink and the
You
tub.
still have Ayres failure.
No, because we don't know
You have
anything
the
about
direction.
the
No, you
propagation
have
of
the
light.
direction. You have the direction of the light coming into the telescope. You have that. You just
That's
don't
a
have anything
presumption.
else. Yes, you do have that. That's literally the
No, that's an
result of
assumption.
Ayres failure.
How do
It's
you
not an
justify
assumption.
that assumption?
You
How
don't
do you
have an
justify
assumption.
the assumption of the direction of light entering the telescope if it's just optical? You can't say
Yes,
that you know the
exactly.
path of light
You have
from
the
the
light.
star to the telescope.
Yes, exactly. You don't know the path of the light from the start of the telescope, but you do have the direction of the light inside of the telescope.
Do we though? Why do we have that?
Yes.
What do we
do.
understand that makes that possible?
You have the image in the telescope at the end of the telescope.
We have the finish line, but we don't have like top of the telescope to the bottom. How are we measuring that?
Well, but light does seem
Citation, please.
the light propagates differently through water than air.
It does, but this contention is about we don't know about the whole path. So
Yes,
we can
you don't
even
know-
say we
you don't
know
know about
about
the whole
how. Hold on.
path.
We,
Yeah,
we
that's
can
true.
even say that we know. We can say that we know something about the interface between light and air. Maybe we can measure that change. That's a really small change, or a really small section of the whole path. But then between the top of the water and the bottom of the telescope, and then through the final measuring device into the micrometer scale.
Okay,
Under
it's
this
like this,
assumption that we
dude.
know nothing
It's
about the
like
path
this.
of light, how
You
do we know
don't.
anything?
You don't have it. You don't have anything of the path of light over any kind of larger scale or course. You guys only have short, like room-sized measurements of light. You have nothing that goes like over large distance, large scales. You don't have that. You have no
What are
citation
you
for that.
granting that gives us room size?
There's never been a citation over the course of. Okay, so I'm looking at my table, right? It looks around 2 feet long. I can then take a tape measure and physically put it up against it and see, yes, it is 2 feet long. So we know the behavior of light in a room. Like I can describe. Oh, look at this table. It's circular. Its radius is about 2 feet. This table, it's actually about a 2x2 square. This dresser right here is about 1 foot by 3 feet. So we can actually physically verify these distances that light tells us that we use our eyes to interpret on a room size scale. That's true. But when we're looking out at something like the horizon, there is vast differences in what we're looking at, and it definitely debunks the globe if we're going to take any of that optics seriously. So you guys just insert a bunch of assumptions about how the light is traveling from the horizon to your eye, and then you just say, hence globe, because we make globe assumptions, and the globe assumptions then confirm the globe. And then you take those same assumptions, and then you stretch them out. Now, first we're looking at a horizon, and we're assuming the path of light from
Let me know
5
when you're
miles.
done. I want to go back
Then
to
you
the
go
table.
from 5 miles. Then we go from 5
before
miles
we
to
get too far
hundreds
away.
of billions of trillions of miles, and you commit a complete scaling fraud based on an assumption out to stars in space and moons and planets and Saturn or whatever.
And
Your example about the table doesn't seem to be about the path of. You're looking at angles from your eyeball to a table and then measuring it with tape measure to confirm that the angles match. That's just trigonometry. What's that got to do with path of light?
Because the light had to take a path to reflect off of the table and come into my eye.
But you don't know anything about the path between your table and eye. Like, how does the path change what a tape measure will read in the scope of what we've been talking about?
The table looks 2 feet. It measures 2 feet. When we look at the horizon looks like it vacillates back and forth. You guys say it's actually a stable curve of an Earth horizon. There's a complete disconnect. With the table, I get a physical measurement, and it's not vacillating. With the horizon, I do have vacillation, and I never have a physical instrument.
Yeah, I'm still a bit young, hopefully. But yeah, I just followed an apprentice, and this guy's like, you don't know.
To basically like confirm that. And then you just take that assumption that you use in the horizon, and then you just scale it out billions of times over, make it even more fallacious, basically.
No, before we get that far, how do we, what is, other than scale of linear measurements, what's different between your table in a room and the horizon?
That is the primary difference.
And so it's just a matter of scale. So what if we had a really big room, like an entire warehouse? That'll get us closer to a horizon, right?
Primary does not mean just. Like if someone says that's the primary thing, there's secondary, tertiary, whatever. It doesn't mean
like what.
If I said solely, then it would be the only thing. But since I said primary, well, there could be all kinds of other factors, dude. In science,
Like
you
what?
actually assume. In science, you actually assume that there's hidden factors that you have no knowledge of, and that you will actually uncover through the scientific method. So saying like what
Are there-
is like a rudiment.
are there
Saying
any-
like what is a rudimentary misunderstanding of the assumptions of the scientific method.
You were clearly frustrated by the lack of citations, and yet now asked for like what, aka a citation. Now you're like, well, we don't have to actually know because there could be numerous
What?
uncountable differences.
No, I just explained to you how science works. You assume that there's going to be secondary and tertiary factors in your measurement that you don't know about before the onset of the experiment. That's just how science works. It's the assumption of
But
science.
can you use the potential existence of those secondary, tertiary, etc. factors? Can you use their very existence to make conclusions, despite not knowing what they are?
Well, it's kind of irrelevant. I don't think you can, but it's kind of irrelevant, right? Because you said the one thing. I was just correcting you. I was just correcting you on what I said. Okay, I said primary. Given there's going to be secondary and third, whatever. Because I'm being strictly consistent with the scientific method. You're trying to pull apart the scientific method, and you think that's attacking me, when really it's not doing anything. It's actually destroying your paradigm. Like
All I
I'm
did was
just
ask
sticking.
what
I'm
the
sticking
difference
by
there
the
is
scientific.
between your table in a room
Yes, I
and
said
a really, really big room.
Primarily scaling. Then you wanted to go and do some sort of weird pigeonhole thing where I just casually corrected you and said, no, in science, there's going to be secondary and tertiary factors that we don't take into account. So I just did a normal scientific paradigm correction of what you were trying to like put in my mouth. And I was just casually doing it. And then you were trying to blow that up as if it was some sort of gotcha contradiction in what I was saying, when really I was just being strictly adherent to the scientific method. And if you want to attack the scientific method and me being strictly adherent to it, you're only attacking your own paradigm, not me. It's not a got you. It's not something to giggle over.
Asking a question is not putting something in your mouth. And all I was doing was asking if there's something, if it's primarily scale between your table in a room and maybe a bigger table in a warehouse.
If you ask a question that
hold on.
If you ask a question that says, well, if it's only scaling, that is putting something in my mouth.
Let me know when you're done, and I'll pick up right where I left off.
By asking a question, that is putting something in my mouth. Like if I asked you why you keep on calling yourself a retard when you did it, I am putting something in your mouth, right? And that's what you did, not on like a derogatory way, but just kind of like a subtle, deceitful way.
It was open-ended, so it couldn't have been putting anything in your mouth. You could have said nothing.
I literally corrected you because you were putting something in my mouth, and now you're denying it. Yeah, you're trying to blow up this small thing that you're being deceitful about. You're being deceitful, and you're blowing up something that is me being adherent to the scientific method. As if it's a gotcha towards me.
We can move on now.
Hey, listen, me adhering to the scientific method is not a gotcha for you, dude. And you're being very deceptive.
I never said it was. What are you putting in my mouth now?
I only have to explain this because there's people who don't understand what's actually going on here.
If I may. Small table in a small room, big table in a warehouse, bigger table in a football field, stadium, indoor arena. There's got to be a point. There must be a point. If the horizon is past the limit of us being able to use what we learn at the smaller scales, there's got to be a point where we can find how and why that breaks down. And that's what I was saying. Where and at what scale.
And what I'm saying is, you guys haven't even tested it over the course of like 50 feet. So you haven't even begun to test where the scale breaks down. You guys are at a very rudimentary. You guys are at a very rudimentary level. And yeah, you're right, because on a small scale, I'm looking at my table. My table doesn't vacillate. On a large scale, you say the entire horizon moves back and forth miles and miles. It'll move forward 2 miles and it'll move back 12 miles. That's very different. That's very different from my table, which never vacillates in how it appears to me. So at some point between the scale of me looking at my table and the scale of me looking at the horizon, something optically definitely breaks down. You're asking me, where does that happen? I don't know. And you guys don't either. You have no citation for it. You guys have never studied it. That's the problem that I'm pointing out. The problem is your guys' absentee knowledge. Your problem is your absentee knowledge of how light works and how it differs over larger scales. It's an admitted problem. We all know the problem exists. Sorry, go ahead. My bad.
It's accurate to say that everyone is absent this knowledge. Past 50 feet, you said. Well, you said 50 feet. Maybe that's arbitrary. I don't want to put anything in your mouth. You've got 2 foot table, and then you said we haven't measured it even at 50 feet. So the warehouse and big table is already out of the that's already past the limit of our ability to know or anything we've measured.
No, that was hyperbole. That was hyperbole. I mean, we may not. Yeah, but at some point between like me in this room looking at this table and me looking at the horizon, there's a very large difference because things in my room do not shift back and forth tens of miles, whereas the horizon does. So there is a big thing, a big gap in the knowledge of optics in the globe model that is filled in, please be quiet, the globe model that is filled in with just raw, bare assumption, nothing to back it, no citation, no scientific measurements, nothing. And that's
so what does flat Earth have on top of that?
that gap is where flat Earth can actually exist. If you didn't have that gap, there could never be a flat Earth. But because there's that gap in knowledge, that is why there's a flat Earth movement. And you guys will
So
never
it
close
sounds
that
like
gap. You guys will never close that gap because I believe when you close that gap, you will come in. You will come into the issue of the light
you'll
is
be
actually
forced.
making it appear. The light is actually making it appear that things sink under the horizon, and thus
Sure, that
all
could be
of
the
your globe
case.
models is based off of that not being the case, and
So
it
you're
being
making
that
a really
actually
good
things are
point.
going below the horizons. Yeah, go ahead. My bad, dude.
You're, you're making a really good point that flat earthers could do that. They could do that measurement at scales from inside your room where nothing sketchy, nothing unknown's going on, to 50 feet, to 500 feet, to 5,000 feet, to the horizon. That could be directly interrogated and demonstrated and understood and quantified by flat earth assumptions and debunk the globe. Like irrefutably. That should be possible, right?
Yeah, but we don't have all the greatest empires of the world, all the greatest universities of the world, all the funding of the world, all the scientists, all the engineers. We actually are just a ragtag group of mostly retards. So like we're
How many
you're,
non-retards do you actually need, though?
you
You need like a few.
you have literally all the empires of the world, all of its wealth and all of its knowledge and engineering for the past 500 years, and you still haven't solidified this gap. And then now you're going to come in here and hypocritically demand that a ragtag band of maybe a couple smart people, but mostly idiots, is going to like somehow now have to do the work that you guys have refused to do for hundreds of years.
I
That's
think you'll
completely
recall that
hypocritical.
I did not demand that you do it. I asked that it sounds like that you're saying it could be done. I'm not demanding you do it. I'm not saying anybody lift a fucking finger. I don't care. But this picture you painted
Okay, you have to admit
makes it seem like it
that's
could be done.
deceitful. That's deceitful. Oh, I'm saying you could
Bullshit.
do it, but I'm not saying you should. Like, come on, dude. That's you're using rhetoric, bro. You're
What is the
using
rhetoric
rhetoric. You're
specifically
using
here?
rhetoric. You're using rhetoric. Yeah. Oh, why? If it's so easy, why haven't you done it? That rhetoric
Did I say that?
goes. That
Talk about
rhetoric
putting
goes.
words in my mouth.
That rhetoric goes against your side more than it does us. Like, trust me, it goes way. We who are not even scientists should have way less of like a incentive to determine this gap in optics knowledge than all of the greatest scientists of all time for the past 500 years. Like, that's really a hypocritical, deceitful kind of stance you're taking.
I would
Like, it
challenge
completely
you.
destroys your paradigm way more than mine.
I would challenge you to rewind this conversation and find anywhere where I picked a side, globe or flat. I am asking about the what seems to me
Dude, you're
the natural
obviously a
conclusions
glober.
of what you're saying.
We all know you're a glober. What are you talking about?
For the sake of this conversation, I granted at the very beginning what your original premise was. We can then continue from there if you want to actually like investigate and go back and forth. But you seem
So now you're
stuck on
not a
the fact that
glober?
Are you putting words in my mouth now?
You just said, oh, I'm not taking a stance.
In this conversation, for the sake of this conversation, those words have meanings. I don't think they're ambiguous, are they?
Yeah, I just don't think that's actually true. Like, you're very obviously trying to support the globe side. You're even like saying like, oh, well, like, why haven't this been done? It's possible to be done or whatever. It's like, it's possible you guys should have done it, not us.
I did not once say that ask why it hasn't been done. I did not once say anybody else should do it.
I would actually say you were implying that someone should on the flat Earth side, because you're like, then the globe could be. Yeah, you were very heavily implying. Maybe you didn't directly say it, but you're definitely very heavily implying in a rhetorical sense. Yeah.
Okay, is that a sin? Is that even a fallacy? No. That sounds like a subjective interpretation of what the words I said, but I didn't put the meaning in there.
It's not a
if you're
sin.
curious about that meaning, we can work past it.
I mean, maybe it is kind of sinful. It's like slightly deceptive. Like it's kind of
Again, with the
deceiving for
deception.
lower
That's
IQ
an ad hom
people.
at this
Yeah.
point. Fuck that. I've not been rude. I've not called anybody names. I've not lied. But you got to keep like dredging up those potential, accusations that don't really apply. Like I'm not going there.
Like, oh, it's possible, and like you could just do it and then debunk the globe.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. You did say that. That's
Nope,
very.
I asked.
That's a very.
I said it should be possible
Okay,
to do
verbatim,
this
say what you.
based on what I understand you to be saying. It should be possible to do this, and that, if done, could debunk the globe. There was no anybody ought to or anything.
Yeah, you're retreating. You're rhetorically retreating.
All right, give yourself the W. Congratulations. Does anybody else think that if that's the case, that the scale from a 2-foot table in a room to a 50-foot table in a warehouse and scaling on up, like us here, I don't think this even requires like massive budgets or fancy equipment.
I think it does.
Breakdown should be discoverable.
Yeah, but okay, here's the thing. It's not a I think you think. Everyone has to agree. This is a fact. This is a fact between the flat Earth and globe Earth paradigm that the horizon shifts tens of miles back and forth. That's a fact, bro. It's not a I think you think. It's an observed fact in reality. It's actually the whole reason there's even a flat Earth movement. So that's a fact. It's a fact. It's not a I think you think. It's not up for contention. Both paradigms agree The horizon is shifting 10 miles back and forth, and that tables and
And as a
rooms are not
consequence,
shifting at all.
yeah, as a consequence, there's a point between tables and rooms and horizons where it will start to do that, or ought to start to do that, I expect.
Yes, and the Globers have had 500 years, all the funding of all the empires, all the greatest scientists, all the greatest universities, all the greatest science institutions, and not actually close that gap in knowledge and leave it open for interpretation. So the rhetoric actually goes against you way more than it does against us.
Is that gap worth closing for either side?
I think it's worth for both sides to close.
Great.
Actually,
Then
but I think it would be the nail in the globe coffin though. Like that,
That's
closing
fine.
that
If
gap
that's
would
the
actually
result,
prove a flat Earth.
that's fantastic. See, that's all I was talking about. We found where to look to get that nail in that coffin.
Bro, I think I made a ChatGPT rage quit. I think all we need is a ring laser gyro and Fizzo's experiment, maybe a little Ares failure. Dude, ChatGPT was literally, oh, maybe you guys aren't done with this, but I'm just like excited
Yeah,
because
that's good.
dude, ChatGPT literally was lying to me. Can I read some of the shit it said, dude?
Post it.
Go for it.
It's just so much, dude.
Because AI is a liar sometimes.
Post it you up. I'd like to see it.
Well, there's so much. It's unfortunately writes so much fucking shit. But at the beginning it said Fizzo's experiment does not have a closed optical path. It does, and it conceded to that. So pretty much like the ring laser gyro and the Fizzo's experiment, other than the water, is pretty much set up exactly the same. And ChatGPT kind of agreed with that and says there must be something that kind of allows the ring laser gyro to measure Sagnac effect while Fizzo's can't. It's like, but well, not as far as anything we know, and it couldn't come up with anything at the beginning. It was just fucking lying.
Fizzo's not about the Sagnac effect, though. You understand
And
that?
it's not about it. It's not about it. It's like it would be set. The Earth is moving, and it's set up like a ring laser gyro. So I have a theory. My theory is that the ring laser gyro continually, circulating that same path, which is the same in Fizzo's. Clockwise and counterclockwise beam path. I think the ring laser gyro might be doing it faster and more times or something, and causing some type of like induction, like in Transformers and.
Well, but it's also the case that in the Fizzo's experiment, you have the medium genuinely moving one way in one direction and the other way in the other direction. That's not.
Yeah, that's just accelerating the water in that direction.
Not accelerating, just moving, right? Velocity, moving water.
Yeah, but no. So I almost finished the last sentence without an interruption. So the end of that sentence was that induction, that spiraling in the ring laser gyro, I believe, is what's causing the Sagnac effect and why it's not appearing on Fizzo's experiment.
I don't understand. I guess I don't understand why you're talking about Sagnac. It's not like Fizzo's experiment is rotating, which you might do if you wanted to kind of look at a Sagnac version.
The laser gyro doesn't rotate. The beams do, just like in Fizzo's.
No, but that's true. But you do have to understand how it is that it is rotating, right? I mean, the point is that when the ring laser gyro tells you that gets a non-zero result, it's because the laser gyro itself is rotating.
You're saying the gyro is also rotating?
Well, a ring laser gyro will tell you that it's not rotating, right? It'll give you a null result if it's not rotating. It's only when it does rotate and the path in one direction, essentially in the lab frame, is shorter than the path in the other in the lab frame that you get the.
Oh, you're talking about. Oh, I thought you meant like the gyro was spinning. Like, are you talking about Earth rotation causing it to? Okay, got you.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So So you're. I mean, this is great, dude. I feel like I've leveled. I feel like I've gotten to like that cozy spot in like these debates where like I have my position all worked out. That like there's no answer really, and because I mean you're not really rebutting anything. So I have a theory for the mechanism for how ring laser gyro is showing Sagnac effect, and within the Earth model, the globe Earth model that's spinning. There's no reason why Fizzo's experiment wouldn't show the Sagnac effect, but it wouldn't with what I'm saying. I'm giving a mechanism. So.
Yeah, I do think that you would see let's see, I have to think about it a little bit. Fizzo's experiment is never really set up as a rotational frame, not a device that measures rotation. And it wasn't
intended to, but it is set up the same, dude.
Well, it's got counter rotating beams, yeah. So it's got that same feature.
Yeah, this is what ChatGPT was doing. There's a bunch of meta not addressing what I'm saying,
I'm
not
not sure what
disagreeing
you're
with what I'm saying.
I mean, I'm not. Maybe I just have missed it. I think maybe you haven't really revealed the great reveal yet, or have I just missed it? Because I haven't heard anything I disagree with.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're not putting everything together that I'm putting out there. But it seems like a common occurrence where they know how to eat their works and what how to create electricity in these transformers and tell us they're generating all of it. Yet there's every 3 poles there's a transformer with a spiral coil. And all these
Yes, they're
spirals.
not. Transformers do not generate electricity. They
I know.
get this. Get this. They transform the energy.
I know.
If you want to know how they work, I could explain it to you.
They explain it to you in a way that's like, we're not making electricity. We're just changing it from whatever.
Yep. The 13,000 volts,
I know.
and then it transfers it down to 120, 240 for your house. That's how they work. That's what the transformers are there for.
The step down ones.
Yes, and the ones that you can see around your house are all step down.
No, I looked that up. They're also step up.
No, none around your house are step up. The only way they can work, they work both directions. Yes, you're correct. But unless you have something at your house generating more electricity than you use.
ChatGPT lying and then conceding I'm correct.
Well, right, 99.9% of them are step down. You could also backfeed, but unless you have something producing energy more than you use, they're always going one direction.
That's weird too that you guys have
could
to step
say
them
this,
down everywhere. Like you're making too much electricity.
If you have solar panels on your roof that are feeding the grid, then those same transformers actually are stepping that voltage up.
They work both ways, but neither transformers never create energy. They transform it.
Is what they told you in the books. I know. And we know what
No, dude. I worked on them for 5 years. I worked for the utility.
Yeah, and I've talked to many linesmen. I ask them all the time, and I tell them this theory, and they say we would have no way of knowing how much they're making at the plant and how much is going through the line. I mean, they test how much is going through the lines, but they don't like mathematically calculate how much are they making at the generator and how much is in all the lines altogether.
Yes, they do. It's voltage times
The
current.
linesmen don't. It's called AC theory.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, the
linesmen
linemen
don't. Yeah, correct.
But it is
And
done at the utility scale. Absolutely.
Right. Your house measures the amount of current, so they can measure the amount of power going through your house. So it's a very simple calculation, voltage times current.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with any of that.
You could sue your utility for all of the bills you've ever paid if you could demonstrate that they don't know that.
That's not even. I did not claim that they don't know how much you're using. What the fuck?
What you just said? They don't know where it's coming from.
If they have a loop of electricity going around and they're circulating some of the same free energy that they're using, it doesn't mean you're gonna have free extra electricity at your house. They still know how much you're using. What the fuck?
You know what energy arbitrage is?
We're kind of like I'm like doing a lot of stuff, but yeah, I just want to.
Where's the free energy coming from?
Yeah, arbitrage is utilities or generating entities agreeing to deliver an amount of power during an amount of time with massive consequential, very expensive contractual consequences if they do not. And that's like utility to utility, or like a warehouse full of batteries selling back to the grid, selling back to multiple utilities in real time.
Looks like he left, so I don't know if he's going to respond. Wesley, you're hot micing.
Sorry.
Dude, these AIs are pretty amazing. So you can just branch off any of the last prompts, and it'll just remember everything from that prompt before, and you can just start a new leg.
Reason I don't trust using like ChatGPT for answers, like when you Google it, is because it'll give you answers from Reddit that just random people saying everything, and that's why it's wrong so much. It just gives you answers that it don't even know is right itself. It don't go to like a place where you would expect to have right answers, like encyclopedias or something, or something like that. It'll give you something somebody said off of Reddit as an answer.
Possibly some of them might do that sometimes, yeah. But I mean, back in the day, if you were to search something, you would like Reddit would probably be on the first page somewhere that you could click on as well. But yeah, I was coming with something separate, but I just I had never done this before where you can branch off like a chat Like I wanted to go to a previous one. I want to branch that. I wanted all the memory of it before that. I didn't want the later stuff. I wanted to save that for something different. Anyways, I was just doing that and it worked. It was one of the first times I've done that. I was asking anyone else if they've done that, if they've seen how you can branch it off. It's called branch in new chat. So it branches it off at any point, and it will only remember from everything up from that point. Anyways, that's pretty useful. I don't know, it's crazy how it can do that. It can remember going back. So like, I mean, it depends on what your people are using it for, but I've been doing some coding with it, and it's like incredibly advanced when it comes to coding. Maybe just asking it random questions, yeah, you're gonna get like a mixed bag. Or trying to debate it on Physio, like yeah, you're probably gonna get a mixed bag because of all the physics deceptions and stuff going on. But with coding, it's like to a T accurate.
It's going to give you that mainstream answer if you ask it the shape of the Earth, right?
Of course, yep.
So I don't know.
Well,
You can't really trust it for anything, I think.
You can get it to contradict itself, though. It'll start to debunk its own globe arguments. That's pretty entertaining.
Oh, I'd like to see that. Maybe
It'll
compile
contradict
some.
itself. Yeah, it'll contradict
Yeah.
itself, then go back on it, and it's pretty funny sometimes.
That would be a good, like, there should be a separate place here to collect contradictions like that. That would be a fun topic.
My favorite is when it sits there and just straight up admits that it was lying, or it presented the information wrong, and then it
But it's very
implies no
sorry.
intent.
It's always really sorry when it does that. You were right. I shouldn't have been so hasty. Right? Doesn't that feel good? I always like that.
No, I usually remove all the subtle niceties. I prompt it. That's usually how I start off every interaction. I have a copy paste, and sometimes you gotta paste it a couple times, but it removes a lot of the like how you talk with like endless bloviated non sequitur bullshit. Yeah, I prompt it so it doesn't do that.
Tell it just don't give me any of that non sequitur globe bullshit. I want the straight.
Yeah, it's like stay on the topic, and only the topic. You know, like I don't care what color the grass is when I'm talking about the color of the water.
Have you ever used this branch off thing, Rigor? Have you ever used it before it
Nope.
branches off?
No, I start a new one. And like if I want to branch off, I do it like manually because I don't even log into them. Because when you log into it, I tried doing the whole login thing, and then it just cuts your sessions short. It just keeps it in little snippets, and it's like, whoa. But if you log out, you can go extended.
Well, I think if you're logged in and if you're paying, you get like a better model though, as well. Like a more
Probably.
Yeah, obviously for the page you do. Or at least they claim that.
Yeah, I just have a hard time supporting it financially. The whole moral thing. It's like, oh, what am I doing? I'm paying for this thing, but I mean, there's benefits to paying for it. So yeah. So I look at the more people paying for it, the more likely they are to increase the cost of it and require everyone to pay for it, and then make everybody dependent on it to the point where you have to pay for it. And it's now a new utility. Like, imagine if AI becomes a utility. Oh, that'd be brutal. I think it's just a matter of time where companies are going to be so reliant on AI assistants that if you remove the person, like I look at it like this, right? They're going to start hiring people that are very efficient with AI. They can juggle their models or create little run agents in a particular way where it's extremely beneficial to doing their job. Maybe they'll run like 3 or 4 AI models to accomplish like a task of say it's like 5, 10 people, doesn't even matter. Then that person, right? These companies are going to try and force that person to share all that shit after but I'm guessing at first it's going to be people quitting that company, asking for more money, and the company's like, oh no, we can't really afford it. That person leaving, that company hitting a huge bottleneck in those departments that were previously covered, and then from there it's going to go on to the companies that then going to want access to how you accomplish the task, and basically just steal it from you, and then just train others on it, on how you do things, kind of like how they do everything else. It's like even in the workforce right now, how often do you see somebody training their replacement that's going to do their job for cheaper than what they do it? What's the benefit though, Gio? What are you seeing for a benefit to like branching off? You going back like 3-4 questions and then from there, or 3-4 prompts, and then from there you're just redirecting it?